It is round 10 of the Ginetta Junior Championship this weekend, and we are at the Snetterton 300 circuit on a gloriously sunny day and in very high temperatures, and the cars will shortly be making their way out onto the grid. The first of 3 races for them. This is a grid based on the better qualifying time. Race 2 tomorrow, second fastest, and then it's the finishing order of race 2 that gives you a race 3 grid. The Snetterton 300 is nearly 3 miles in length, 12 turns in total. Reaches the first fast right up to the Wilson hairpin, and then out of turn 3 you have that infield section to wriggle all the way through. You get to the Bentley Straight, speed building down to the Brundle Nelson S's, through Bombhole, then round Coram and into turn 12 to round out the lap with the pit straight just ever so slightly inclined as the cars then run back towards Rich's, that first right-hander. Second race of the weekend, and we've just had the Ginetta GT Championship on track, where Rich's proved to be rather dusty, and that was the undoing of some early on in the race. So if the juniors were paying attention, they'll know which lines to avoid now. Umbrellas are up, not because it's wet, far from it, but because the track temperature is 39.9 degrees. There's barely a cloud in the sky, and so people are trying to shield themselves from the sunshine. It's a little bit breezy, and that's quite welcome, just to try and keep some of the temperature down. But the hardy fans who are braving, if that's the right word, the high temperatures and sitting out in the hot air are getting ready for what should be a really lively race, because we've got 26 of the juniors heading to the grid. Here they come, and this very much is the school of hard knocks. If you can do well in this, then you've set yourself up. Freddie Slater, one of the more recent champions, currently doing great things in single-seaters. Previous champions include the likes of Adam Smalley, who's gone on to win Carrera Cup GB and be a GT star now in McLaren's. Tom Ingram, British Touring Car champion, was the 2010 champion. And other names that have come through the Ginetta Junior ranks include Isaac Hadjar, who drove in the Winter Series 1 year, and a certain Lando Norris. I forget what happened to him now. Pole position is Fred Green, who comes from a good motorsport family. His uncle, Jamie, was Formula 3 Euro Series champion and DTM race winner. His dad, Nigel, Formula 1 and Formula 2 stock car world champion. And grandfather used to race on the ovals as well. So Fred Green, who's done a lot of karting with Jamie's children as well, in the Jamie Green Racing camp, won the Ginetta Scholarship last year. He's come into car racing this season, and from a great pedigree, certainly a man to watch. He's had 1 win. Alfie Slater, lining up second on the grid, also has been a race winner this season. There, a little bit further back, is George Proudford Nalder's car. He's 11th on the grid, just being marshalled into place. But the man to beat in terms of race wins, he's had 7 of them, is Rocco Coronel, the son of Tom Coronel, who is here as irrepressible as ever, GT and largely touring car star, and celebrating 20 years of the Ginetta Junior Championship, as the windscreen strip tells you. The cars are good to go. Rocco Coronel, as you can see over the shoulder there of Fred Green, carrying the Red Bull livery. So they're going to get 1 formation lap, and then it will be a 20-minute race. Ginetta Junior Racing has always been frantic. The G40 shaped car was the, if you like, the second generation of Ginetta Junior chassis. It was initially a G20 Junior with a roof on it, as against the senior car that was an open car of the time. But always very spectacular racing. And as I say, if you can do well in this, then you can do well in pretty much anything. It teaches you a huge amount about racecraft. Alfie Slater there in the grey and green car on the outside of the front row. Brother of Freddie, who is currently doing good things in single-seaters globally, and father Adrian used to be a very successful Porsche racer going back 2-3 decades. Won the Silverstone 24 Hours and was a front-runner in the Porsche Club of Great Britain Championship races. So, Fred Green on pole position, and he, in a few moments, will lead them away. His dad, Nigel, always known as the Milky Bar Kid because of his round spectacles and slight frame, which always sort of sat as a contrast to trying to wrestle a big Formula 1 stock car around circuits. But Nigel did it with aplomb, and as I say, was world champion in 2s and Formula 1. So away they go. There you've got the tape on the wall ready for when they get back at the end of this lap. They know exactly where to line up, so they're not over the grid markings on the track. It's hard to see exactly where the nose of the car is in relation to a white line, but if you line up with the mirror next to the tape that your mechanics put on the wall, then you get away from any potential penalty problem. So a chance to get some warmth then into the Pirelli tyres on which these cars run. And Fred Green, the man on pole position then. Safety car as it is, leads them up towards Wilson. And Fred Green starts on pole on this 1x1 staggered grid with Alfie Slater lining up second, Rocco Coronel third, and Max Cuthbert is fourth. Ethan Carney will go from fifth. Joseph Smith starts sixth ahead of Scotkin, Lindblom and Colin Cronin. We've just seen brother Robert in the previous Ginetta GT Championship race finishing second. Ninth is Harry Bartle, 10th is Raoul Zunzaren. 11th on the grid, George Proudfoot-Nalder, and then Ethan Lennon lines up next ahead of Felix Lively and Josh Watts. Then you get to Jarrett Clark and Felipe Rice alongside. Reevy Lake is 17th on the grid ahead of Noah Young, then Emilio Del Grosso and Joshua Henry to round out the top 20. Matthew Chiwara is next ahead of Henry Cameron. Katrina E is ahead of Andrew Robinson, and Max Murray fends off Torin Byrne for 25th on the grid. Torin Byrne's father, Sean, somebody that had great success in Caterhams not that many years ago. So lots of second, in some cases third generation racers. And as the cars wriggle their way through the infield, number 3 here is Raul Zunzaren, or Raul Zunzaren Perez, to give the driver from Pamplona his full name. Very successful in karting before switching to car racing, and comes from a family that had a karting rental business and raced in that very early on. He has Mikael Ashkuna, world champion in the WTCR, as his driver coach and mentor. So certainly doing good things for Raul Zunzaren. So the field now coming to the end of Bentley Straight, ready to go into that left and right sequence up towards the grid. And with everybody, of course, having the same type of car here, Ginetta G40 Evo, 100 brake horsepower sealed racing engine. These very, very evenly matched cars. Many of the teams that run them have been in the game for a long time now, so they know exactly how to operate the cars, get the best out of them, and also many of the teams employing driver coaches to work with the teenagers who are totally new to cars, new to the circuits, and unlock the potential. So Rocco Coronel, the first of those in the Red Bull colours, making the way up towards the grid. The other Red Bull liveried car is that in the hands of Scott Kin Lindblom. And George Proudfoot-Nalder, they're getting himself ready for the start of the race as well. The Australian driver comes from Orange, very rapid karter at the Orange Kart Club in New South Wales. And it was, according to the family, watching Rory the racing car on TV that rather triggered the interest. But he has always wanted to be a kart racer, and now cars, and he comes across to Europe to try and continue the ambition. His brother James, sister Ginetta with him, travelling the world, going to all of his races, and he is looking to try and enhance the results for the second half of the season. George Proudfoot-Nalder here, making his way up to the grid. Also heading to the grid 83, which a little bit further away from the front is Reevy Lake. And the yellow flag waves just to remind people to slot into position. George Proudfoot-Nalder, 9th in the standings at the moment. Right, so everybody is back, and the yellow flag now withdrawn. The indication will be given at the rear of the grid to say that everybody has returned from the formation lap. It's a long formation lap, of course, nearly 3 miles. So it takes quite a long time to get the cars around and back onto the grid, but we are good to go now, pretty much. So Fred Green on pole position. He won the last race at Oulton Park. Can he carry on that good run of form? Lights are red. Lights will go out after a long hold now. Fred Green launches the car. Good start. And he's going to be able to hang on, I reckon, as they run down towards Riches for the first time. So Fred Green leads the way. To the outside line goes Alfie Slater, making a very decent start on the inside line of the red car. Ethan Carney trying to gain ground, and he has done so, as Scott Lindblom there goes out of Riches, trying to, at the same time, keep Colin Cronin behind him. George Proudfoot-Nalder right on the back of Cronin as they go up towards Wilson. If there's a pinch point on the first lap, this will be it. And 1 and 2 go way out wide there, look, including number 73, which is the white car of Harry Bartle. Others go bouncing wide over the curb, over the grass, including Raoul Zunzaren in the MKH racing car. And that might just break up the pack a little bit as they come out of turn 3 then for the first time. On the outside line, the blue car of Josh Watts, number 22, the Tim Gray Motorsport car, that gets run out wide over the curb. Quite often at Snetterton, you find yourself on wet grass. Here, it is tinder dry. Down towards Agostini. Fred Green leads, then Alfie Slater second. Rocco Coronel is third. Fred Green not getting away. 1 or 2 go very wide. Way wide in some cases then as they bounce over the curb and wriggle their way now up through Hamilton and then on towards Oggies, up towards Williams for the first time. So Fred Green leading the way, but only just. Alfie Slater right there behind him. So Fred Green won at Oulton Park. It was Alfie Slater that won the first race of the year at Donington. George Proudfoot-Nalder comes now up out of Oggies, up towards Williams. He dropped back a bit, I reckon, from Joshua Watt's car there, ahead of him, the blue one. So 1 or 2 gaps are opening up. And has Nalder got a problem with the bodywork at the front? He has. The air is getting under it, and the bonnet is starting to rise. So whether that is because of a loose pin or contact, hard to gauge. Didn't see any contact, but look, that is in danger of parting company altogether. And the scrutineers may well want that in, because that does not look great. If that parts company, it's a big chunk of bodywork. It doesn't take much with a little tap just to dislodge it. So there, through the slow bits, it's okay. Then the air gets under it and it becomes a big problem. 83 is the next one to go rally crossing. Reevy Lake, back on track. This is her view. More dust thrown into the face. Grabs a gear, coming into Coram. About to lose a place as well there, because up the inside squeezes the car of Young. So another place gained. Drivers forging away up from lower down on the grid. So Noah Young gains ground and then runs a little bit wide coming out of turn 12, but survives the moment. Behind that pair is the car of Emilio Del Grosso. Right, leaders go by. This is Reevy Lake grabbing top gear, coming past the pits down towards Riches. It is Fred Green from Alfie Slater by 0.2 of a second. Rocco Coronel is third. George Proudfoot-Nalder is carrying on. Visibility probably not yet that obscured, but this is the danger, that more and more, as the air gets into it, it's opening it more and more and weakening anything that's keeping it attached to the car. I would be surprised if that was able to survive for 20 minutes. Coronel goes second on the inside line, coming into turn 3. So Fred Green has made a bit of a break. That may not last in Ginetta Junior Racing, but he's ahead by a couple of lengths. Coronel goes second. Slater is third. Here they come, down towards Agostini. In 4th place at the start of the lap was number 15 of Joseph Smith, the pale blue car, there it is. And then 5th on his tail is Scott Lindblom, next in the queue. So they wriggle now up towards Hamilton. You can see how, as one driver goes wide, people behind just measure their pace against the car in front and go wider and wider. More dust hangs in the air. Scott Lindblom there, right on the tail now, trying to gain ground, as Fred Green's gap has disappeared. Look, as rather predicted. Right on his tail all of a sudden is Rocco Coronel. The Coronel's big racing family as well. Father was, or grandfather of Rocco, was a great Alfa Romeo enthusiast. So when Tim and Tom, his 2 boys, were born, they became Tim Alfa and Tom Romeo Coronel. As they're rally crossing out of Williams comes Ethan Carney. That will tumble him down the order as a consequence. He was 5th at the start of the lap, but not anymore. And Rocco Coronel then carrying on the family connection with the sport. And he's carrying on to get himself onto the back of Fred Green for the race lead. So that gap has come down. Really on a mission on this lap is Coronel. Further back, George Proudfoot-Nalder's car is losing the bodywork still and losing places, down to 14th. It's also kind of acting as an air brake, really, so that car no longer terribly aerodynamic, and it's getting harder and harder for him all the time. Race leaders now make that run again, out of Coram, down towards turn 12. Lots of task wheel, and look at Proudfoot-Nalder now. He's got them all queued up behind him. The team kind of torn here. They wanted to stay out probably for as long as possible and see what can be done, but he is certainly losing places. 95 then tucked up behind. That is the car of Noah Young as they come up towards the timing line again. Fred Green goes through 0.3 of a second ahead of Rocco Coronel, who has now done the fastest lap of the race. In 3rd place, it's then Alfie Slater in 4th place, currently Joseph Smith ahead of Scott Lindblom, and then into the top 6. Big lockup by Smith, and he just about gets away with it, but it's Slater, in fact, who contact he's made with. So Slater had to turn into the corner and found a totally locked up Smith in the way. So what has that done to the order? Green leads Coronel, then a bit of a gap before Scott Lindblom. He's up into 3rd now, he was 5th, and this is for 4th, and they're overlapping, look, as they come out of turn 3 with Smith just getting ahead, and Alfie Slater did not like being roughed up at the hairpin. He doesn't like being roughed up at 3 either. And now right up behind them is Max Cuthbert, and then behind them it is number 75, the bright yellow car of Colin Cronin. So for 3rd place, 4th place rather, Slater gets run out wide again. He's going to get really grumpy about this because that's 3 corners in a row where he's had some sort of to do with Joseph Smith. And you can see that Max Cuthbert now is right there on his tail. So Slater was trying to attack. Now he's got to defend. He goes to the inside line. Is there going to be contact? No. Good move that by Slater. Found half a gap, makes it his. And now Max Cuthbert, number 34, 6th in the championship, tries to make the move on the inside. Joseph Smith then is hung out to dry on the outside. So Slater goes by, Cuthbert goes by, Cronin goes by, and Smith goes off. He drops down the back of the queue. So that costs him effectively 3 places as Fred Green still leads the way here, coming up towards the Brundle Nelson S's once again. Fred Green ahead of Rocco Coronel. It was 0.367 of a second. Doesn't matter what Green's winning margin is as long as he wins. And right now all he's got to do is make that car as wide as possible. That in number 15 going by is the hard-charging Joseph Smith. He's got to try to regroup after that rather grassy and dusty moment and get himself back into the mix. Coronel crawling all over the back of Green. Lots of task wheel as they pour their way now from Coram through turn 12. This is the battle for first. For the race lead, it is Fred Green from Rocco Coronel. And what about Scott Lindblom in 3rd place? Is Lindblom getting closer? He's doing his best to sort of edge nearer and nearer and nearer. He gained places on that lap. Now he has just over a second to make up, really, before he can think about having a proper go at Coronel. Through Riches they go once again. Race leader Fred Green is under attack. 12.5 minutes are on the clock. Somebody else goes grass cutting in the background. We'll come to that in a moment. It is number 3, I'm afraid to say. So Raul Zonzaren has gone way off the road. He's back on. Didn't hit anything, thank heavens, so he'll be able to carry on in the race. George Proudford-Nalder is still 15th, so despite the air brake, he's carrying on. And surprisingly, it's not got much worse. Max Cuthbert on the inside of Colin Cronin there. Look as they go side by side through 3. Cronin is the one that comes off worse there by being edged up onto the curb. So now Joseph Smith, another quick caster who came into Ginetta's in the Winter Series at the back end of last year, also looking to go through. And that queue also now contains 73 of Harry Bartle. And up behind him is the recovering Ethan Carney in 53. Remember, he was another one that we saw on the grass a little while ago. Now, driving standards flag for track limit offences. Well, that's Ethan Carney way out bush in the red car, but Noah Young, number 95, is going to get the warning flag. He's the first recipient. Ethan Carney in 53 carries on, but that's cost him a bit of ground, so now he's got Joshua Watts right up behind him as well. Things like that do certainly prove costly. They break up the pack, and if you get caught behind the car as it rejoins and you have to lift or swerve, then you are compromised as well. There is Colin Cronin then making the run again down Bentley Straight. For the race lead, Fred Green keeping Coronel at bay, but we haven't really seen Rocco Coronel yet, perhaps, darting around in the mirrors, looking to really force the issue and make that move. Colin Cronin, number 75, goes through, a curb-hopping number 31 behind. That is the car of Felix Livesley, the MDD Racing entry. Here are the leaders, and it's still Green from Coronel. Scott Lindblom there, really charging. Now, in terms of sectors, he's a little bit quicker than the 2 ahead, or certainly he was in Sector 1. Sector 2 maybe not quite so good for the Swede, and then he gets a bit sideways there at turn 12, comes up towards the line. So Fred Green hangs on to the advantage. And Rocco Coronel is so close, but not quite close enough to really make a move. Wants to try to get a toe over the line, and he does so. Now it is game on. down towards Riches, the first corner, into the fast right. Didn't dive out of the draft though, so sits there, applying the pressure. And a good run out of this corner might well tee him up for a move on the inside line. Heading into the Wilson hairpin. Coronel right on the tail, doesn't commit, doesn't make a move. So Fred Green feeling the pressure, no doubt about it. Is his confidence on Coronel's part that he's quite content to sit there for almost 10 more minutes of the race and make his move late on? Well, if it is, it's a gamble, because Fred Green's quick and he's just stretched the margin going through turn 3. There is Rocco Coronel's Red Bull compatriot, Scott Lindblom, in 3rd place. And these 3 now well clear of Alfie Slater, who, remember, was probably 2 laps ago now, being roughed up at the turn 2, 3, 4, 5 sequence of corners. And the net result is he's fallen off the back of that leading line. To the inside line of the yellow car there, Colin Cronin makes a move and goes through. Gets up the inside of Harry Bartle, so that puts him 7th now as the race leading Fred Green turns once again up towards the right-hander of Oggies. Slater all over the grass in the background. We've got more and more drivers being given track limit warnings now, so they do need to be careful. Slater 27, number 34 is Max Cuthbert, and they are absolutely as one as the leaders hit Bentley Straight yet again. Speed building all the way down to the S's. Now, this could be an opportunity for Coronel to use the toe to his advantage, just as Max Cuthbert may well do the same against Alfie Slater. He doesn't leave it until late down the straight. He makes the move early, so they're side by side heading under the vehicle bridge. There are the race leaders with Coronel almost hidden, so close is he to the back of Fred Green. Scott Lindblom still 3rd, side by side for 4th. Up the inside now. Look goes Max Cuthbert, nicely done. Teed it up coming onto the straight, completes the move at the end of the straight, and that now puts Max Cuthbert up into 4th place. Down to 5th goes Alfie Slater. Now from 2nd on the grid, this race is rather unravelling, isn't it, for Slater here? He's losing places, and he's also losing time, but the danger is now that he gets caught by Joseph Smith next up. So there is Smith in the bright blue car, whose long-term goal is to race in the World Endurance Championship. He wants to be a hypercar driver. So the race leaders go by. That now puts 5 laps in the book, and we've got just under 8 minutes of the race to go. There is Slater on the attack again, tries to get back onto the tail of Max Cuthbert as they go down towards turn 1. Turns through Riches now, but not an opportunity to make a move for position there. Not for the want of trying, mind you. Further back, George Proudford-Nalder is all over the back of the traffic here in 83 Reeve Lake, and she goes through, look, up on the inside line there to gain ground. So she moves herself up past 55 of Jarrett Clark. Proudford-Nalder looks quick, but every time he gets out of the draft in the air, gets under the bodywork, just completely slows him down. So to the inside line goes the Australian. Might be a place gain here coming out of the corner. There is. I'm still amazed that bodywork has stayed attached to the car and actually not got a whole lot worse. The onboard view doesn't look that much different now on lap 6 than it did early on. For the race lead, though, it is still Fred Green just ahead, look, of Coronel. That margin is at the start of this lap, 0.498 of a second. So Fred Green's doing a good job, at least for the moment, of hanging on to position. Nose to tail, they can now up from Oggies, heading towards Williams. And then through the right-hander with Scott Lindblom also being a bit of a tease here, because you would anticipate that he should be now right up with the 2 leaders, but he just can't quite get there. So as the leaders again accelerate down Bentley Straight, Coronel getting into the slipstream, getting into the toe, hoping to use that to his advantage as they get to the braking area. Coming then into the left-hander any moment. Coronel doesn't, again, feint to the inside, so it makes you wonder what he's up to. Either this is all part of a master plan to strike on the last lap and then there's not much opportunity for Green to retaliate, or he genuinely hasn't quite worked out how to do this. And what we're not doing is seeing constant efforts. That's what's making me think that he's got the confidence to wait. Again, the air getting under the bodywork of George Proudford-Nalder. He comes down through the S's. So coming then now up towards Bob Hole is number 25 then, the Australian driver, 16th at the start of the lap. So coming up towards the long, fast right of Coram now. And there, I'm afraid, having gone well early in the race, but in the pit lane is Noah Young. He was in that leading group early on, but it looks as though his race has come to an end. Right, pit board goes out for P2 for Coronel, who is still looking content, as he has done in earlier races this year, to just sit on the back of the leader and increasingly, it looks as though that is the plan, to leave it late, and then there's little opportunity for Green to attack. This time he does make a move with 5 minutes to go, up the inside to turn 2, and easily done. So Rocco Coronel, nicely done, times it well, goes up the inside, gets ahead of Fred Green, and now the intention will be to pull away, with Fred Green only having really this lap and maybe one more to go, in which he can fight back. They're lapping at about 2:22s at the moment, and we've got 5 minutes of the race to go. Little battle further down the field with Ethan Carney in the red car then, squeezing up the inside of Felix Livesey. Way out wide is forced number 22, that being the blue car of Josh Watts, the Tim Gray Motorsport entry. So Coronel, Green, and now Lindblom. That's the top 3, same drivers, different order and different gaps as well. Look, because now Lindblom is right up with Green, although in fairness, Fred has not taken the loss of the lead lying down. He wants that back. So as the pit boards are being readied, Green right on the back there as they went up towards the right-hander of Oggies. So let's see whether he's going to be able to attack once again. Here they come, 3 for the race lead. Nose to tail, on to Bentley straight. So now Coronel tries to get away. Lindblom using the toe of Green. Green using the toe of Coronel. So now it's a proper Ginetta Junior race with 3 for the lead, coming down towards the S's. And it's Coronel on the defensive then. Covers off the inside line. Lindblom makes a move to the inside as well. Green's trying to go all the way around the outside of Coronel. And that's going to give him the inside line for the second part of the S's. And he's got the lead back. Very nicely done by Fred Green. And Lindblom goes second. So for Rocco Coronel, he led briefly, but he's now in 3rd place. That wasn't in the game plan, that's for sure. Green not only hits the front, but also is about 2 lengths, maybe 3 clear as they get to Coram. Now, what Green needs is for those 2 cans of Red Bull to start squabbling. That will give him the opportunity to get away. There's a big slide out of Coram by Lindblom. There's more drama there, look, because a big lose at the S's has befallen George Proudford Nalder. He's back in the race, but place is lost as Ethan Carney comes now down towards turn 12. Keeping Livesey at bay. Meanwhile, the race leaders are about to break the beam. They do so with Green ahead of Lindblom, ahead of Coronel. Half a second is the leading margin, and a 10th is what it is between the 2 Red Bull cars that close up to the leader, going down towards Riches. 2 more laps they can squeeze out of this. Livesey to the inside in the white car. On the outside line there, look, is Ethan Carney, and a mistake by Livesey opens the door also there for Harry Bartle to go by on the inside. Ethan Carney then now getting himself back into the game plan. 8th place, 3 for the lead, 3 for 4th, where Alfie Slater is just ahead of Max Cuthbert once again, and then it is number 15 of Joseph Smith next in the queue. Green defending for all he's worth, coming now down towards the left-hander of Agostini. He's got Scott Lindblom behind him. Lindblom has not been a race winner this year, but he did get a 2nd place at Oulton Park. And he had a 3rd also at Donington and at Silverstone. So being on the podium is not an alien experience for Scott Lindblom, but he's not been on the top step. So he wants to try to change that. Rocco Coronel has had most of the wins this year, so he's not used to being really beaten by another Red Bull back driver. That won't go down well. There you've got 4th and 5th still nose to tail. Slater ahead of Cuthbert with Joseph Smith behind them. So for the penultimate time, on to Bentley straight go the leaders. Now that battle pack for 4th place comes onto the straight. Speed building all the time down towards the left and right of the S's. They'll get themselves into the braking zone as Green has to go very defensive there to try to cover off any move by Lindblom. He's trying to stack him into the clutches of Coronel as well. He really needs those 2 cans of Red Bull to start squabbling, but it's not happening. Lindblom is on the attack for the race lead, so now double trouble for Green. He's got the 2 cars behind, both glued to the back of him. Who goes which way now as they come up to the right of bomb hole? Fred Green again has to cover off the inside line. Coronel trying to make the move, but not on the outside there against Lindblom. It's not. Now towards turn 12 and up towards the start of the last lap. There's just about a minute and change on the clock. Coronel squeezes on the inside line at Coram. That's the outside line for 12. So Lindblom goes back through, and all of a sudden their squabble is what Green needs. That gives him a little bit of breathing space, look, as they come up towards the line. So the white car of Green ahead of the 2 Red Bull backed cars. Lindblom, the Swede, ahead of the Dutch driver, Coronel. So the Leicestershire driver, Fred Green, leads the way. 0.7 of a second the margin, and that's handy going on to the last lap of the race. You can see there that Slater, Cuthbert and Smith are still as 1. And then behind them, there's Colin Cronin ahead of Harry Bartle. So 12 turns to the Snetterton lap, and this is the second of them. Green ticking them off in his head. Side by side for fourth. Max Cuthbert up the inside of Alfie Slater. Gets the job nicely done, going into the Wilson hairpin. And Joseph Smith is on the attack as well, coming out the other side. They make that run now towards turn 3, out of which the leaders go. And as they do so, the leading car, Fred Green at the wheel of it, still just somehow hanging on to the advantage. Run by Elite Motorsport, local team to Snetterton, the East Anglian squad. And so can Fred Green, who briefly lost the lead, hang on for another half a lap? Let's see. Out of the infield section they come. Very wide slides. Joseph Smith, another of the Elite Motorsport drivers. In second place, Scottkin Lindblom for R Racing. And Rocco Coronel then next in the queue. The Dutch driver looking to see what he can do. Another of the R Racing drivers on this final lap. And Green, Lindblom and Coronel are all rookies new to the championship full-time this year. Fred Green, a little bit wide, maybe, coming out of the infield onto Bentley Straight that time, but as long as he's not compromised the exit speed too much, he might still be good by the end of the straight. There you can see Cuthbert and Slater still nose to tail for fourth place, but for the race lead now, Coronel's on the attack against Lindblom. Lindblom is on the attack against Fred Green. They all break for the S's, and Fred still just hangs onto the place. Makes that car very wide indeed, and he's got to do so for effectively 4 more corners. Quickly covers off the inside line. Here comes Coronel again to the outside, heading towards bomb hole. No way through there. Right, there's Coram and then turn 12 to go, but you're not out of the woods either after that, because then with the slipstream there's that long drag up to the timing line. So Fred Green leads the way. Is this going to be win number 2 of the year for him? Is it going to be win number 1 of the year for Scott Lindblom, or win number 8 for Rocco Coronel? Coronel lines up to make a move there with a tighter line coming off turn 12. He's almost level with Lindblom. They're going to be side by side on the run up towards the line, almost leaning on each other, but Fred Green has got just about enough in hand. He's going to hang on for a second win of the year. Great race. Fred Green wins, and it's a virtual dead heat for second as they go across the line. But Lindblom gets the nod by 15 thousandths of a second. Fourth is Max Cuthbert. Fifth, Joseph Smith. Alfie Slater sixth in the end ahead of Cronin, Bartle, Carney and Lennon. And the checkered flag is waved to the last of them in that top dozen squabble. But a proper Ginetta Junior race that, and with no silly driving either. It was certainly close, but it was certainly clean, and that's the most important thing. So they weren't driving into each other. It was just hard, good racing. And Fred Green, a very well-deserving winner. He may have lost the advantage briefly, but he managed to fight back and comes through the winner by the enormous margin of 0.282 of a second. This is how it all happened at the end. And have a look at side-by-side for second. Scott Lindblom, the one nearer the pit wall, given the nod by 15 thousandths of a second. So that's how it was published, with Lindblom ahead of Coronel. And no doubt the teams will have a look at that and say, really? Was Coronel not fractionally ahead? But it's every man for himself in the R Racing stable, irrespective of the same livery on the car. Right, Fred Green wins. Cracking race. And there are 2 more this weekend at Snetterton. So the results of race 1 in the Ginetta Junior Championship here at Snetterton. It's round 10 of the series. Fred Green taking a second win of the year. In second place, Scott Lindblom, and Rocco Coronel, championship leader, coming home in third. Fourth, going the way of Max Cuthbert, ahead of Joseph Smith. Alfie Slater sixth. Then it was Colin Cronin ahead of Harry Bartle. Ethan Carney was ninth, and the top 10 rounded out by Ethan Lennon. And in the end, I'm afraid, George Proudford-Nalder ended up in the pit lane. So the bodywork drama became just that little bit too much. We did have a couple of drivers being given penalties. Most notably was number 21, Matthew Chihuahua, and that dropped him down the order. 24th, his ultimate reward. So let's look at the best bits, and there were many of them in round 10 of the Ginetta Junior Championship that began with Fred Green converting pole position into the race lead, with Alfie Slater tucked up behind him from second on the grid. Slater's race would soon unravel. Scott Lindblom, in contrast, who not qualified all that well, only 7th, was soon on the attack. And there was contact as George Proudford-Nalder got into the back of Colin Cronin's car going up towards turn 2. He lost places coming out of the corner, but also more significantly was the bodywork started to flap and act as an air brake. It wasn't long before Coronel was on the attack for second place. The Red Bull back driver going second on the inside, moving himself up and past the car of Alfie Slater. And a big lock-up later on by Joseph Smith was the first of the dramas for Slater, because that opened the door for Lindblom to get 2 places in one manoeuvre. There was contact between Smith and Slater, and they carried on leaning on each other really for the next 3 or 4 corners. Ultimately, Slater ended up in 6th place. So as the leaders got themselves together for a big squabble, so there was a big battle going on for 4th, which almost lost Joseph Smith when he ran wide coming onto Bentley Straight. And coming out of turn 1, drama also for the Spanish driver Raul Zonzaran, as he got it all wrong and wet rally crossing. Rocco Coronel made his move for the race lead up at the Wilson hairpin, but Fred Green was having none of that, and he fought back later in the lap round the outside coming into the S's that gave him the inside for the 2nd element and gave him the race lead. Also, Scott Lindblom made the move into 2nd place. So Coronel, having been looking to try to time it to perfection to get the race win, ended up 3rd as they sprinted their way up towards the line. For Fred Green, it is a 2nd win of the season in the Ginetta Junior Championship, and there's more to come here from Snetterton on day 2.